This is an Eastern Pennsylvania Continuum of Care coordinated training. This training is for call center and access site core entry specialists. And the topic of this training is documenting the head of household and family member information as the beginning of a core entry project enrollment. I'm in the training environment for PAHMIS client track, so it looks slightly different, but the features and functionality are the same. It is important that core entry specialists utilize our other training videos and reading materials, which may be found through the client menu, PAHMIS training submenu. Both videos and reading materials are available for core entry specialists and include trainings on identifying the HUD Category 1, 2, and 4 definitions of homelessness, which are essential to figuring out whether we can serve a household that is experiencing a housing crisis. The opening conversation before beginning a PAHMIS client record creation, update, or program enrollment. First to do safety planning and potentially transfer to a DV hotline or a human trafficking hotline. Also to identify whether the household and particularly the head of household will be eligible for a HUD Category 1, 2, or 4 enrollment. Once we've identified that we are going to be doing an enrollment into a core entry project, then you would log into Client Track through the Connect to Home organization, not the agency that you were employed by. You would go to the client menu and you would go to the coordinated entry menu here, where you would either begin an Eastern CoC CE intake if the household is Cat 1 or 4, meaning literally homeless or actively fleeing domestic violence, or Cat 2, a CE intake for homeless prevention, Cat 2 being 14 days away or less from becoming homeless. We're going to demonstrate documenting this information using the CE intake for Cat 1-4, but the process is identical for Cat 2. I will say that in demonstrating the basic client information documentation with the Cat 1-4 intake, you are going to be prompted first with this. Is this client fleeing domestic violence and requesting an anonymous intake? If the head of household is actively fleeing, we've offered them the opportunity for a warm transfer or a transfer to a DV hotline, and either they're already engaged with our DV system or they want to continue with an enrollment into our HUD CoC, Homeless Crisis Response System. They have the option of having their personal information protected so it is not available to others in PAHMIS. If they wish to be anonymous, you would answer yes to the DV question. You would use the workflow for Cat 1-4, and you would see that a lot of the client information we're going to collect is either grayed out and you can't collect it, or it's got a code name or special number populated automatically. And that means a somewhat briefer intake process, but one that protects that information. This demonstration will be with a full regular intake, assuming that we are going to collect all of the personally identifying information. So I will click no. Then be prompted, am we adding a new client or using a current client or selecting another client? I'm going to add a new client because I'm under the impression that this is a person that is not already enrolled in our system. And so I'm going to enter some basic information here. We do not have to collect, we're not required to collect a full social security number, but it's ideal to collect the last 4 digits. As with any question we ask, we are taking the head of household at face value. We're entering data based on what they answer. We're not speculating or challenging that. And they also have the right to refuse to answer any question, but we should encourage them to share as much information as possible so that we understand who they are, what they're eligible for, how we can get a hold of them if we need to, and finally, for us to do data analysis on trends within our crisis response system. So Social Security number is an example of they have the right to refuse to answer, but ideally they would give us the last 4 digits. Same with their birth date. The reason that we're collecting this here is you will see is that the system itself is going to check whether it's possible they're already enrolled in our system. If they're already enrolled in our system, we want to add to their existing client record and not create a new one. Because the information I entered did not come back or return as someone is already in the system with some of that information, we can assume that they are a new client and have not previously been in PAHMIS. All of the fields that you will see throughout PAHMIS that have a red star are required fields. You will be returned with an error if you try to save a screen without some answer to every red starred question. The others are optional, but that doesn't mean they're not important. So the person may prefer a nickname to their given name, which you've recorded as first name, and you could enter that. You could enter that here. Same with middle name. Pronouns optionally could be recorded. And then under basic client demographics for the head of household, again, we have their age. We know what kind of birth date quality we have. Here's where they could say actually prefer not to answer. We are required to ask for self-identified race and ethnicity and gender, and they have the ability to prefer not to answer, but you may read through this list. They also have the right to choose multiple categories, and you could check as many as they identify with. If they identify with an additional race or ethnicity that's not in this list, you can record that here in this optional box. For gender, please review this list. These are the choices we can collect. And again, they may opt to record multiple answers. If different identity is chosen because they identify in a different way, you would then have to record that here. It's required. Veteran status, we already know through the opening conversation. The vast majority of the time, we want to be interviewing the head of household directly, but there may be a situation like a health crisis or an active military deployment where the head of household is not the person we're speaking with, but we're speaking with ideally an adult partner in the household. Regardless, this information is intended to be for the head of household, and we have a separate training on how to identify a head of household for a CE enrollment. Under contact information, you'll see that none of this is required, but all of it is valuable. So if you can record an address, if you can record an email that and let us and check whether it is safe to contact by asking them, at least one phone number and whether or not it is safe to contact, and also whether it's safe and able to accept a text message, which could be a lot easier in reaching out to them for other enrollments. Please record all as much of this information as possible and any notes under safe contact information. For example, you can text, but not after 5 p.m. on weekdays. Once you've recorded that optional information, ignore the remainder of this page and click Finish. Now we have the head of household information, and now it's time to record family members. Family members should include anyone who wishes to be housed with either in temporary housing like shelter or permanent housing like rapid rehousing. Anyone that wishes to be housed with and identifies as a family member. And remember that family meets the HUD definition of family, a household which is a group of persons who apply together for assistance and who live together in one unit, or would like to live together in one unit. They don't have to be related by blood or kin. They can simply identify as a family unit or household that wishes to live together. In this case, you have to record an entry for every member of that household. And so that could include other that could include dependents, that could include spouses or partners, and that could include, excuse me, non-family members. Now you will see when you put a name in, you are prompted with, is this a household member or not? And so, I'm sorry, is this a household member that's already enrolled in or listed in Client Track or not? And so when this pops up, if there were other people in the system with the same name or some of the same demographic information, you would see that listed below. under records, and that might be the same person. And then you would need to confirm that before you create a new family member, which creates a new client record in the system. So you might be adding or selecting an existing family member, even if the head of household has never been in PAHMIS. In this case, there isn't one. I hit cancel. I have to record all of the red star fields for each family member, including full name reported, birth date. So here we have a 5-year-old. We would simply tab right to continue. If not everything's on the screen, we must select the gender categories and then hit X to close that out. Ideally, we'd record the last 4 digits of social. Relationship to head of household. Here's a dependent child. And veteran status and pregnancy status are not listed because it's a 5-year-old. So those fields do not pop up. I'm going to record one more family member for a specific reason. This is also a person that doesn't appear within client track, so I just select cancel. And this is an adult partner who identifies as a member of the family that wishes to be housed. So I'm still going to record the same information. And this is a 16-year-old. Actually, I'm going to change that for a specific reason. 23-year-old who identifies as a woman. And I'm going to record the last 4 social. Relationship here. This could be other family member or other non-family member. Could be any of them, but I'm going to say that as a partner, it's other family member. Are they a veteran? Turns out they are. And you'll see that the race categories are populated by the default to whatever the head of household is selected, but you should go in and record those because that default assumption may not be accurate. Finally, you'll see, and this would have occurred if we had a head of household in the basic client information that identified as a woman or a girl. The pregnancy status box would have popped up in that very first screen. It pops up here because as one form of self-identity being woman, we have to record pregnancy status. And that's important for us because there is a point on our housing assessment tool score that prioritizes for a household with at least one family member who is pregnant. So if we know that to be true and we record it here after asking it, the due date is completely optional, but if they provide that due date, please do record it here. Then we will be able to, on the housing assessment tool, auto-populate a additional one scoring point for prioritization for housing services based on the fact that a household member is pregnant. When you have recorded all of the household members, press save and close. No, we got error messages. These errors are just suggesting there are possible duplicates. Because those are errors we can ignore, press save and close again to go to the program enrollment screen. Since we began a Category 1-4 enrollment, please select Connect to Home Eastern PA Core Entry Category 1-4 enrollment. And then you will need to select everyone who wishes to be part of that project enrollment. For existing households in HMIS, there may be household members that are not presenting as wanting to be part of this specific enrollment. So they could be additional family members listed here, but you would not check them. You would just check whichever members of the household wish to be in this project enrollment together. Once that is done, you click Save and then begin the actual project enrollment. We have separate training videos for conducting a Category 1-4 and a Category 2 full project enrollment, and those are part of our training series, which again can be accessed in PAHMIS from the Eastern PA CoC website core entry pages or from the Eastern PA CoC YouTube channel.